Hey there, HorseCenter fans. Matt and I are back with another exciting edition, Matt. We're not focusing on America in this one, though.
We are not. We're heading north of the border to Woodbine for their biggest race of the year, the Queen's Plate.
Hey, it's my second favorite country, Matt. Queen's Plate. It's Kentucky Derby day up there, the Queen's Plate. Prestigious, historic. Matt and I are going to preview it. We're going to look at the Mother Goose and a developing superstar that may be running in the Mother Goose. Matt and I are also going to talk about some of the great tradition of the Queen's Plate. Watch it all now, right here on HorseCenter. Welcome to another edition of HorseCenter, everyone. I am Brian Zipsy, and as always, I have the excellent pleasure of being joined by my co-host to the East Coast. That's Matt Schiffman. How are you? You're waving already, Matt. How are you today?
I'm good, Brian. I'm doing my Queen's wave because we're going to be talking about the Queen's Plate.
Okay. Well, good. Now that pretty much everybody has tuned out, we can get down to business. Yes, it's the big day north of the border, Matt. Time to celebrate Canadian racing, the biggest, most prestigious race. Hey, it's the Kentucky Derby of Canada, if you will, Matt Schiffman. We got the Queen's Plate. We got 14 horses lining up for Saturday's big race up at Woodbine, a mile and a quarter over the Tappeta Racing Service there at Woodbine, Matt. And, of course, last year, as we well know, Avies Flatter was the 2-year-old champion, the Coronation Futurity winner, trained by Josie Carroll. He's looked pretty good this year. He's going to be your Queen's Plate favorite, but he comes out of the 14 hole in this field.
Yeah, it's always a big field in the Queen's Plate. Why not, Brian? You're running for $1 million in the big race, and yeah, Avies Flatter, 4 wins in 6 career starts. Certainly should be the favorite, but there's a whole bunch of interesting horses in there.
Absolutely. New this year to the Queen's Plate, or rather the Canadian Triple Crown, which of course consists of the the Prince of Wales over at Fort Erie, which is run on the dirt, 1 mile and 3/16, and then back to Woodbine for 1.5 miles on the grass for the Breeders' Stakes. New this year, Matt, is a $500,000 bonus if any horse can sweep the series. Kind of an answer to what happened last year when Wonder Dot won the first 2 legs, but didn't run 1.5 miles on the grass. She came down to Saratoga instead. So this year we got the bonus working, and Avies Flatter's been, I think he's been terrific this year. You know, you look at his 2 races, 1 win and 1 off the board, but the off the board was a pretty good performance where he had a wide trip and was beaten only a few lengths on Derby Day on the turf, but he won the Transylvania at Keeneland nicely. It looks like his trainer has him going as well as ever for the 2-year-old champion. And Javier Castellano, your buddy Javier Castellano, is going to go up to ride.
$1 million will do that. Yeah, and Avies Flatter's got 2 wins on the Tappeta track and 2 wins on the turf. So there's just a dirt question for that guy.
Yeah, well, he hasn't been on dirt yet, or the dirt question won't come up yet, as of course we're running on Tappeta here in the Queen's Plate. But maybe if he wins this and he's in the Prince of Wales in a few weeks, then that dirt question will come up. I have a question about the distance. The Son of Flatter, 1.25 miles, but there's certainly a lot to like for the favorite, and he's a deserving favorite. The 14 hole, he's got time to get a good spot early, but that is a bit of a task coming from the far outside post. Among the horses he has to beat in this year's Queen's Plate, Matt, let's start with the second choice on the morning line. I was a little surprised that he was the second choice on the morning line. His name is One Bad Boy. He's coming in from California, Matt, and the first thing you notice is he's got a fair amount of speed.
Yeah, and there were, like you mentioned about the morning line, there were a few things on the morning line that I found curious, and this was certainly one of them. This horse is coming from California, has run on the artificial surface at Golden Gate, ran last time in a stake out there, finished second, and certainly has speed. There's a couple others in there that have some speed also, but I don't know. 7-2 seems awfully short to me.
Yeah, well, we should talk about the pace a little bit. It is a mile and a quarter, One Bad Boy, as most of these horses, all of these horses will be stretching out to a longer distance than they've ever run. But One Bad Boy, to me, looks like he could be the speed of the speed. I don't see a lot of speed, frankly, even though there's 14 in here. We could talk about Federal Law, who led his last race for most of the way last time as maybe the most likely to be out there. But to me, the California shipper, who was second to Omaha Beach a few races back, came back, won his maiden nicely. And then, as you said, he got some experience on a synthetic surface when he went up to San Francisco, ran a pretty good second up there in a stakes race. One Bad Boy might be the one they all have to catch, Flavien Prat. The young Californian via France rider who got put up in the Kentucky Derby is looking for another big win, this time on One Bad Boy. The horse I kind of expected to be the second choice on the morning line and still expect to be the second choice when the race is run, Matt. It comes from the Mark Casse barn. His name is Skywire. He's the son of a Fleet Alex, which makes me feel pretty good about the distance here of a mile and a quarter. He's run some good races this year for trainer Mark Casse up in Canada.
Yeah, I agree. Skywire is a horse that is certainly going to take a lot of action based on his past performances and based on the fact that he is trained by Mark Casse, who is doing great things this year and has been a dominant trainer up at Woodbine over the years. Skywire's got two really good races on the Woodbine surface, second in a grade 3 up there, an open company grade 3, and a win in an open company stakes race up there. So there's a lot to like about Skywire. One of many closers in there who we should expect to do well going the 10 furlongs and on that surface, which tends to, in my mind, favor horses coming from off the pace.
Yeah, Matt called Skywire a closer. I don't see him on or near the lead in here, but on the other hand, Matt, he's not a horse that needs to be way far out of it either. So De Silva's riding, who's won a lot of races up there in Woodbine over the years. I actually think Skywire could be the horse to beat in here with a little bit better post than Avis Flatter. Matt, the next horse on the morning line, Tone Broke, is a horse that is pretty hard to figure. I mean, there's some performances in there that you got to like, but then his trip to Dubai did not go well.
Yeah, that's for sure. And breaking from the 11 hole, listed at 6-1 on the morning line. Didn't do well in Dubai, but came back to the U.S. and ran second in the Sir Barton at Pimlico. And that race, that performance has been flattered because he was second to King for a Day in there. And King for a Day, as we know, is the horse that defeated Maximum Security at Monmouth Park recently. From the barn of Steve Asmussen, and who's doing better than that Hall of Famer this year. But I don't know. I'm not thrilled with the move from racing on the dirt to moving up to Woodbine to take a shot on the Tapeta.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Matt. That horse is a little in and out for me. Although, as you said, that performance on the Preakness undercard was very good, second behind King for a Day. We haven't talked about the filly yet, Matt, and that's probably a mistake. 2 fillies have won in the last 2 editions of the Queen's Plate. 4 of the last 8 editions of the Queen's Plate have won by the fairer gender. So we need to start talking about the lone filly in the field breaking from the rail. We actually learned about her in her first race of her life when she ran against Our Sooner Schooner, trained by Neil Howard. Matt, Desert Ride is a lightly raised Samson filly who obviously has a lot of talent.
Yeah, that's for sure. And certainly last time had a big win at Woodbine in the Woodbine Oaks. another horse that likes to come from the pace, a horse that's from the Samson stable, who has won this Queen's Plate. I don't know how many times, Brian, a gazillion, 11 times or 12 times, something like that. And of course, Neil Howard is a very, very talented horse. 8-1 on the morning line. And you can't ignore it, as you alluded to, Brian. You can't ignore fillies in this Queen's Plate.
Absolutely. They've proven to be tough against the boys. This race for Canadian breds. And Desert Ride comes off a nice win, as Matt talked about, in the Woodbine Oaks. And that Woodbine Oaks has proven to be a strong prep for the Queen's Plate in recent years. Desert Ride, I've watched every one of her races. I followed her career since she ran that first time out win down in New Orleans. And as we said, the trainer of Neil Howard, or trained by Neil Howard, she's a talented filly who's based here at Churchill Downs. She really doesn't have much speed, so I think the race needs to collapse a little bit. 1.25 miles stretching out to 1.25 miles could be good for her, but without much speed, it might be a tough task to pass 13. Possibly she'll have to do in this Queen's Plate. Matt, among the long shots, I didn't really see a lot I loved. I guess we should mention Federal Law. Jamie Spencer's going to be aboard Federal Law, he's run a bunch of good races up at Woodbine, including a 2 and 3. Last time he set the pace and finished second in a prep for the Queen's Plate. He looks like the most likely of the long shots. What do you see?
Yeah, and the winner of that prep race that you mentioned is also in the race. Another one coming from off the pace. Both of those horses are listed at 15-1. I guess they've got a reasonable chance to get a piece of the trifecta or the superfecta in here, and in a 14-horse field. You've got to pay attention to that. There's also He's a Macho Man, another one from trainer Josie Carroll, who is training the favorite 80s Flatterer, as we mentioned. This one had a nice win at Woodbine in an allowance race in his 2019 debut. So another big price in there, but could be getting better.
Yeah, he could be on the improve. He might be the one horse who can really step up here as a horse who's just getting good at the right time. Having said all that, Matt, I'm going with the same connections that won this race last year with Wonder Gadot. That's Mark Cassey. That's owner Gary Barber. I like Skywire in here. I think those two races at Woodbine point out that he's in really good form and he's doing well for one of the top trainers in North America. And hey, if he's the third choice on the morning line or even the second choice on the morning line, I think it's worth a poke. I have not been afraid to pick fillies in this race, and it served me well over the years before, but I just feared Desert Ride might have a little bit too much to do down the lane. So I like Skywire, and I think Avies Flatter's the horse he's going to have to beat.
Yeah, Brian, and I know you and I don't like to agree on the show, but that is the horse that I also had marked as my top choice in there. As you said, third choice on the morning line. I don't know if it's going to end up that way, but it is a 14-horse field with the favorite all the way on the outside. I think it's very reasonable to take a shot against that horse and use Skywire and hook Skywire up with some of those 15-1 shots, 8-1 shots that we mentioned in the rundown.
There you go. That's our Queen's Plate preview for the week, or picks there. We also want to talk about one race happening in the United States. And Matt, we don't see Garana, we don't see Bellafina, we don't see Serengeti Empress among the entrants in the Mother Goose. Still, we might have, I'm going to go out on a limb here, Matt Shipman, and say we might have a champion in the mist here in the Mother Goose, because I've just been extremely impressed every time I've watched Dunbar Road, the daughter of Quality Road, trained by Chad Brown. She looks like the one to beat to me in the Mother Goose, and fourth lifetime start. She's going to be bet pretty heavy in this edition of the Mother Goose.
Yeah, no question about it, Brian. Dunbar Road is the horse to beat, will be a big favorite, legitimately, not only because Chad Brown is the trainer. At the end of the Mother Goose, I expect that Chad Brown will have double barrels of nice 3-year-old fillies with Dunbar Road and Guarana. This is not nearly the kind of test that Guarana had in the Acorn when she had to beat Serengeti Empress. This is not nearly that strong a field, but I think it's going to be not really an unveiling, but the first graded stakes win for Dunbar Road. And here, I think for handicappers, the question is who's going to finish second.
Maybe so. Yeah, Dunbar Road looks to be an odds-on choice, knowing how they bet Chad Brown there. But tell you what, a romping win when she finally was unveiled at Gulfstream Park, right into the graded Gulfstream Park Oaks, where she was running down Cookie Doe there in the Grade 2 race, and then she came back, tried to get in the Kentucky Oaks. I saw her working. She's beautiful, like I said, daughter of Quality Road. Saw her working at Churchill Downs. Matt, despite this is something about her talent level or potential, despite being on the also eligible list, despite not having enough qualifying points to get into the Kentucky Oaks because of only having 2 starts, she was listed as the second choice on the morning line for the Kentucky Oaks. I think that's how highly regarded she is. Couldn't get in the Kentucky Oaks. Instead, got a little prep in, a nice allowance, nice easy allowance romp at Belmont Park. Now she's back at Belmont for the Mother Goose, and yeah, I like her. Of the rest, Matt Geltrin was the Devona Dale winner and was actually third in that Acorn we talked about with Guarana and of course Serengeti Empress, although it was a distant third. She might be the second choice. Classic Fitz won 3 in a row, but has been off since December. There's Safra's a maiden winner recently. Cassie's Dream was a good enough 2-year-old filly. But I think the horse I like for second is Wings of Dawn, a Medagliadoro filly trained by Mark Cassie, making her first career start on dirt.
Yes, and Cassie seems to feel that this horse is going to like the dirt. He had this one entered last weekend in a turf stake, but decided not to go from the 2 wins that she has had up at Woodbine on the Tapeta and go on the dirt up there. He said that she's been training smartly on the dirt surface up there, and Cassie's pretty good at these surface switches in the race. But I think you're right, Brian. This one, I'm guessing maybe the second choice in there, and the likely choice to finish in the exacta. But I like those other 2 also with Geltrin and Classic Fit.
All right, Matt. Well, I guess what we're saying, folks, here is the Mother Goose may not be the greatest betting race in the world with Dunbar Road as a heavy favorite. Matt suggests Wings of Dawn might be the second choice. We kind of both like her as the second best horse in the race, trying dirt for the first time, the daughter of Medagliadoro. But I think what we do have is probably, right. Is it an unveiling? Is it a coming out party? Something like that. She's still not a stakes winner, but Matt and I both think that Dunbar Road is the real deal, and she's going to flex her female muscles in the Mother Goose Saturday at Belmont Park. All right, Matt, this is a Queen's Plate dedicated show this week on HorseCenter. We already did our Queen's Plate preview, a nice card up there at Woodbine on Saturday, but I thought it'd be nice to kind of celebrate the Queen's Plate just a little bit. I had to twist your arm to do it, but let's do it. Let's talk about the Queen's Plate and some of the greatest and some of our favorite winners over the years. And I think we have to start back in 1964. You were just a young Skaggy Schiffman back then, Matt. Northern Dancer won the Queen's Plate. I believe it was his final career race.
Yeah, Northern Dancer, who went on to become, some people say, the most influential sire in the modern era, from Winfield's farm up there in Canada, who produced 11 winners of the Queen's Plate. Don't forget, Northern Dancer was the winner of the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness.
Absolutely. How could we forget that? 1964, Matt, the son of the Arctic. Yeah, I'm going to again go out on a limb and say, to me, he is the greatest sire of modern racing, the greatest sire of my long lifetime. Northern Dancer, what he did at stud was just amazing. But what he did on the racetrack, Matt Schiffman, 14 wins and 18 career starts. He was a very good two-year-old stakes winner in both Canada and America at two. But then he rallied, he rattled off the Flamingo, the Florida Derby, the Bluegrass, the Kentucky Derby, and the Preakness. That's how good Northern Dancer was in America before finishing a good third in the Belmont. Maybe a mile and a half got to him that day, but a smallish son in the Arctic who just went on to great things, won the Queen's Plate, was champion in both countries, and it's fair to say, Matt, especially if you look at the breeding, what he did at stud, the greatest Queen's Plate winner of all. Matt, you wanted to mention a horse coming in the next decade, the mid-'70s, and I remember L'Angeleur as a horse who came down and won the Laurel Futurity at two.
Yeah, L'Angeleur was a winner of the Queen's Plate in 1975, the 70s, Brian Zipsy, the golden decade. Some people, some old folks like me, feel that the 1970s was the greatest decade in the history of thoroughbred racing. And L'Angeleur was one of those, ridden by one of my favorite jockeys, Sandy Hawley, who we didn't see that much in the States, but would come down and ride in America in some big races. Also, as a little trivia item, L'Angeleur was out of a mare named Fan Ferloose, who became famous a couple years afterwards. You remember why, Brian?
I do remember, Matt. You go ahead. He was also a son of Buck Passer, who was pretty good as well. But go ahead.
Yeah, Fan Ferloose was in foal to Secretariat. That was at the beginning of Secretariat's stud career, and in foal in Claiborne Farm. And allegedly, the mare was kidnapped in foal to Secretariat, and they didn't find her for many, many, many years. And then she was found in a small farm, like 4 or 5 months later, in a small farm in Kentucky. And the owners of that farm said they found the horse walking down the street, and they didn't have any identification. So it was an interesting story to hear now, but it was quite a news-making story in that day.
Yeah, that's probably a little bit warning to all you in-fall broodmares out there. Make sure you carry identification. Matt, she was an excellent mare, and L'Angeleur was a horse. How many horses win the Winnipeg Futurity and the Laurel Futurity? He beat Wajima, by the way. Excellent horse, Wajima, in that edition of the Laurel Futurity. But L'Angeleur ran 30 times at 2 and 3. He didn't race after his 3-year-old year, but he won 15 races in 30 starts, and he won it coast to coast in Canada. He came down to America, won races here. L'Angeleur was a really nice horse and the Queen's Plate winner of 1975. Let's skip it. Oh, by the way, Matt, I agree with you. 1970s, the golden decade of racing for me as well. We're going to skip ahead, though, to a kind of a fertile time in excellent Canadian racing, to the late 80s and the 90s for a few more horses here, Matt. Probably my favorite personal Queen's Plate winner of all was 1989, a son of Caro out of a Buck Passer mare, Passing Mood. Very good Buck Passer mare, by the way. She had some good ones, and With Approval was a really good one, Matt. 13 of 23 lifetime. The gray horse was a stakes winner at 2, and then won a number of stakes, including the Canadian Triple Crown. Won a number of stakes on dirt, but in the Breeders' Stakes to clinch the Triple Crown, he did it on turf. And then at 4, he became a real tiger in the United States on the grass. With Approval was one of my favorites.
And I'll just throw in one of 8 winners of the Queen's Plate for Hall of Fame trainer Roger Attfield.
Roger Attfield is a living legend in Canada, still going strong. He was ridden by Craig Perret. Those are two of my favorite horsemen, Craig Perret and Roger Atfield. I saw him at Belmont at 4, Matt. As good as he was winning the Canadian Triple Crown, he might have been even better at 4. He ended the year second in the Breeders' Cup Turf that year, but I saw him early in the year set a world's record running 2:10 and change for a mile 3/8 on the Belmont Turf course with approval, the 1989 Queen's Plate winner, Matt. I tell you what, if you ask who your favorite Queen's Plate winner is to a lot of people, the 1991 winner might be the answer. She's Dan Smartley, the best of all the female winners, the daughter of Danzig, Matt. How about the year she had as a 3-year-old in 1991?
Yes, one of the many fillies to win the Queen's Plate. She went unbeaten in her 3-year-old campaign. Was ridden by Pat Day to victory in the Queen's Plate, and came from that. I mentioned it in the field for this Saturday's Queen Plate. Came from that Samson stable that has produced so many. And Dan Smartley went on to become the first Canadian-bred winner of a Breeders' Cup race.
Absolutely, Matt. She ran a very good race at 2 in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile fillies, but in 3, 8 for 8. I guess she won the Canadian Oaks, the Queen's Plate, the Prince of Wales, the Breeders' Stakes, the Molson Million, and then the Breeders' Cup Distaff in succession. She is a Hall of Famer both in the United States and Canada, of course. 1991 Queen's Plate winner, that was Dan Smartley. 93 winner, Matt, he might not be the most popular Triple Crown winner, but there was a few reasons I liked the 93 Queen's Plate winner and the Canadian Triple Crown winner. His name is Peteski, and I think you know who his sire was, Matt Schiffman.
That's right. Peteski, maybe the best horse sired by Triple Crown winner, Affirmed, and another one of the winners trained by Roger Atfield.
Yeah, Peteski reminded me a little bit of Affirmed. Affirmed, of course, wasn't quite the sire that people hoped for from the absolutely beautiful son of Exclusive Native, who was probably the gamest horse I ever saw. But his son Peteski, he got some of what Affirmed had, and he was a Triple Crown winner, winning the Queen's Plate, of course, the Prince of Wales and the Breeders' Stakes. He could do it on dirt and turf. And right after he won the Triple Crown, Matt, there was a couple classic winners from America that went up there that year for the Molson Million, the old Molson Million. Sea Hero, Colonial Affair, Kissing Chris was also another top American in that field. And fresh out of the Triple Crown, Peteski beat the Americans as the favorite. As you said, Roger Atfield trained Craig Perrette, ridden as well. Peteski unfortunately died of colic at the age of 11, so we don't know what his sire career could have been, but I agree with you. The best son of the Triple Crown winner Affirmed that we ever saw. One last horse I need to mention, Matt, that's 1997. Awesome again. Matt, did you know that the Queen's Plate he was coming out of 2 maiden races out in California. The Queen's Plate was Awesome Again's 3rd lifetime start.
Wow. That's a pretty good way to step up and become a stakes winner. Of course, he raced in the colors of the Stronach stable and went on to become a winner of the Breeders' Cup Classic.
Yeah, Breeders' Cup Classic winner. He won the Jim Dandy as well after winning the Queen's Plate. Matt had a little injury later in his 3-year-old year, but he was 6 for 6. People forget he was 6 for 6 that year. And the 1998 Breeders' Cup Classic is considered by many to be the greatest, the deepest field that the Breeders' Cup Classic ever assembled. Awesome Again was the winner of that after closing out a 6 for 6 season in 1998. 9 of 12 lifetime, the 97 Queen's Plate winner, Awesome Again. Matt, that's just the tip of the iceberg, but there are 6 big names from the Queen's Plate that Matt and I wanted to highlight a little bit here on a Queen's Plate edition of HorseCenter. We hope you enjoyed our little trip down memory road. There's been a lot of great Queen's Plate winners that we didn't have time to mention, but 6 of our favorites there. Matt, we got to thank our sponsor, the best contest site out there, Derby Wars, and we have to thank the viewers. You tuned in groves in the Triple Crown. We saw some great numbers here on HorseCenter, those numbers, of course, dipped. It's only natural after Triple Crown. We don't get the same viewership that we do. But for all you that continue to watch us week after week here on HorseCenter, we certainly do appreciate it. Matt, can I get a closing shot from you? And if it's Queen's Plate related again in any way, that's not a bad thing.
And of course, I want to thank our loyal viewers, because that's what we have at this time of year, our hardcore, loyal HorseCenter fans. And of course, I need to thank our producer, Brett Workman, for putting together the show.
Thanks to Brett. Hey, if you haven't yet subscribed to our YouTube channel here on Horse Racing Nation, please do so. Next week, Matt and I are going to be back with another great edition of HorseCenter, highlighting the Stars and Stripes Festival at Belmont Park. We'll see you then right here on HorseCenter.